we've been talking a lot about work here. What has kept you sane in a world where, you are dealing with these difficult handoffs and all these funny things? What has kept you sane? Obviously, it's been a funny last couple year and a half or so, but what keeps you humming outside of work?
Well, I have a fiance, so I spend all of my non-work time with her pretty much. And other than, home stuff or before the pandemic, being able to spend time with friends and family. I picked up woodworking, which is probably the worst time to do that because the prices skyrocketed. But I've been enjoying a little bit of that, just trying to get away from a screen and do something with my hands. I rejected that notion for such a long time, and the moment I started, I was like, yes, this is so much nicer. We try to go on walks, try to stay a little bit active. You know, I've been running a lot more, trying to like go on bike rides, things that are pandemic safe. Don't play a lot of video games. Never really seem to have enough time, but whenever I do, it's always VR, just so that I'm up and moving around and
Ah,
doing
that's
something active.
interesting.
Like if I'm gonna play a video game, I want it to like get my adrenaline up, and I want to be moving around a bit. So I've been playing when I have the opportunity. I play a lot of a game called Population One. Um, I think it's a really good way to get kind of excited, and get your energy up and move around. Maybe get a little bit sweaty depending on how you play, and just do something really really different. A little bit more dynamic than chores and working.
Yeah, I do find a lot of devs do have video games as that kind of outlet among the people who do have kind of a life outside development work. From what I've gathered, there are so many devs who do just develop, and that is entirely their life. And I know plenty of my friends who I went to school with and who are working now where that definitely isn't the case, and it isn't the case for all of their peers in whatever industry that they're in. But it is certainly healthy for me. The kick out of the rabbit hole, so to speak, from developing for the day is working out for sure. Going for long bike rides, going for runs, playing soccer, those sort of things. Like you said, getting up, moving around, getting the adrenaline going, kind of having a goal to compete towards. Like you're talking about, even woodworking. Obviously, there's an end goal, and it's a very productive thing to be doing. What have you built? Any good projects? We have any works in progress, shelves? So we're talking about general contractors earlier. Am I going to hire you to build my first fence here or what?
No, no, definitely not. My major goal, because you have to have like a far out goal of something you're going to build. I plan on building a bed for us.
Vi-
So it's kind of a larger project, but it'll be relatively low to the ground kind of bed. It'll have the whole canopy and stuff like that because that's what she wants. Um, so yeah, I'm just sort of working towards that.
No, you've thought it through. The
Um,
the long term goal is great, and it's funny you say a bed. My dad had gotten into woodworking. I don't know when, but I still have a bed frame at my home, the house I grew up in, that he built when I was, I think, 1 year old. And he built it for me and my brother to grow into. He made the same bed frame for both of us, just duplicated the work that he did. And the things are still kicking. They're sturdy as all heck. It's an impressive project.
it's awesome. You were talking about developers that only develop, right? And their whole life is development. I feel like that's pretty common when you're into like hungry phases or like part of a cycle where you're just super interested in like learning something and trying things out. In the earlier part of my career, I was doing that all the time, to the extent that sometimes it affected my relationships because I was always working. But I could work all day and then be like, oh, I don't want to code anymore. And then you close your editor and you open up your editor and you start working on that personal project and you just that fire lights up and
Yep.
you just have like these endless questions that you want to answer. um and I feel like some of that fire has not necessarily died out, but I've started to appreciate a lot of the things that I might have been neglecting before. So making sure that you're maintaining your relationships and first taking care of yourself, then taking care of people around you, and then also making progress in other areas because eventually you will burn out. And so for me, I go through cycles. Every few months I go through a cycle of being on fire, being super passionate, all I want to do is code. I would, hell, I would take time off of work just to work on things,
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm like that lit up, whether it be learning or working on like a side project or something like that I'm really interested in. And then a few weeks pass of that, and I go into sort of a depressive phase where, I'm just kind of burned out on all of that, and I'm not necessarily depressed. Like I'm doing my job, and mostly happy with what I'm doing, but I don't have enough fire to keep me going in the evenings or early in the mornings to work on personal stuff. And so I feel kind of, burned out then. And then I go from that to wanting to be more social, where I, recognize that, maybe I've been neglecting some friendships, and I'll try to reach out and talk to people more and do things more with people. And I want to get up and move and be active. And then eventually that gets kind of, I want to be more of an extrovert. And then maybe because I'm doing that, then the fire gets reignited, and then I just want to like go face down and study again. And I've talked to a number of developers about this, and it seems like quite a few people go through cycles. And I'm wondering if it's that the cyclical nature of having high and low points is natural for passions, or if maybe we're just doing it wrong. Like maybe it's just the fact that we are sitting in front of a computer looking at a screen. Like maybe if we do work out every day and do manage all of these aspects of our life, maybe there's a way to manage it to where we don't have several weeks of burnout. And so that's something that I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah, and the work-life balance bit is something I think you're hearing about more and more modern day, and you see the large corporate companies trying to adjust to things like unlimited off time, which isn't really unlimited off time, but I think they're becoming, or at least are pretty aware of the trouble that people are having in general, not just developers, with finding that balance. It is tricky to find. I know when I was in college, the triangle of the optimization triangle was grades on the top, social life on one of the sides, and then health on the other. And you could only have two. Like to have all three was your trick, right? That was trying to find yourself right in the center of that thing, and to be 50% on all of them, or contributing equally to all of them. And as I graduated, I very much so I always had all these ideas, and I would always try. I think the one thing about being a dev is you're very empowered because you can build whatever you think about, at least if you're thinking about software pursuits. And I always had ideas and still do. And you can have these bouts that you go through where you go through like a 3-month cycle of just trying to build this thing as quick as you can. And, you see what happens. And to your point earlier, thinking about the product side of it, or I guess I would go further and say the marketing and sales side of it, sometimes you could just be a little bit too nearsighted and you don't think about how this thing's actually going to get sold or if it's actually viable, all these things. But the balance in life for me since college, the triangle has changed. I'd say it's no longer grades, but I would say it would be meaning, social life, health. Family would be kind of bundled into all of those, probably social, but optimizing for all of them is certainly tough. And there are times when you have to put your head down and just do one thing and be hyperlinear. I'm not saying it will make for the best family life for a month or whatever, or best work life for however long. Everyone has things where they go through where they have to kind of be a little bit less in tune and have to take care of their family, or, this project needs to get delivered for us to seal a $1 million contract in the next month. Let's go. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, John, want to go for a bike ride? I know I haven't reached out to you in a month here. I've been a little busy. So, optimizing for all three is tough, and everyone's doing it. But like you said, it is good, at least for that fire that's blazing really loudly on one of those points of the triangle, to slowly dim down so you can kind of come back, take the step to the balcony, be like, oh, yeah, I've been neglecting that and that. So maybe it's a good thing that it's a bit cyclical, because it does give you at least a chance, not that you're going to take it always, but it does give you the chance to segue into putting your efforts elsewhere, or at least rebalancing.
Yeah. The most important thing is probably having a system, and then understanding when you should be flexible on that system.
Mm-hmm. Knowing where to make your concessions. Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.